We have spent the last 2.5 years implementing internal controls in the city of San Diego, going through the Kroll recommendations and implementing all of the parts of that, and we're about 80% there in the city of San Diego. I believe that every facet of the city of San Diego needs to operate in much the same way. And that says nothing about the people there or the boards there, but it does say that we need to make sure that those controls are in place. All agencies are treated equally, and we have the same transparency from all those agencies. With that, I do want to tell you, I will not support, nor am I moving to get rid of SCDC. I think it's an important organization, one that should be returned to the community, one that we need to pay great attention to when we select board members and when those board members work with the community to select a new CEO. I think that that's what's critically important, and I think that SCDC as a model deserves to continue to exist to serve the communities that are in its area. I think that what we need to do is make sure that we have board members who want to be there, board members without conflict, and make sure we have people knowledgeable about the redevelopment process, knowledgeable about law, knowledgeable about accounting, knowledgeable about all of those areas, and I'll have those people represented on the board.
My name is Jewel Hooper, and I reside in Valencia Park. And I just want to ask the mayor, do you think this situation that has occurred is a perfect time for us to know, this community, to define the role of the new strong mayor and the city council?
If any of you remember the ballot proposition that was put on in 2004, it was left very nebulous.
Right.
There was not really a lot of definition to what the strong mayor and the council, what the relationship was, and some of the lines of authority. And if you've watched over the last 2 years, we have literally had to work through a lot of issues on budget authority, who has the authority to cut a budget, whether it's the council, whether it's the mayor, on land use issues. One of the things that we found out after we got into this form of government, I'm not part of the legislative body anymore. The state of California says you cannot vote on legislative issues or have a role in land use issues if you're not part of the legislative body. That was never envisioned. So what the council has done was each 6 months has made me the executive director of those two agencies, but there is no power behind that. All I can do is nominate board members, and the council confirms those board members. So I think that you're right. I think this is a time to talk about that. We do know that this will be going on the ballot in 2010, but that's one of the things that we're moving forward now is we need to clarify some of these roles as we move forward, so it's not nebulous on who has the oversight over SCDC, CCDC. The council very clearly has oversight over the Housing Commission. The council very clearly elects and is the agency board for SCDC and CCDC, but it's very nebulous on how those strings are operated to make sure that both are operating correctly. So I think it is a good time. I don't believe there's been any criminal, any unethical conduct. I simply think it's been an issue of missing controls and things that don't look good and shouldn't look good to people because it's not transparent.
And then the final thing, I know he's telling me, our concern is that when you called on the board, or at least Fred Sane called in and said if the board doesn't fire her, then we're getting rid of the whole board. Is that what we have to look forward to? Is that we're appointed, that if somehow we don't go along with how you've appointed us, or that's been a recommendation, and if we don't vote, that we have to be slung through the mud too of if you don't vote, we're going to fire you all?
Well, first of all, I apologize for Fred making a statement. He didn't have my authorization to make it. But secondly, when we appoint, I expect my appointees to carry my point of view forward. And I think that's an important thing. With 8 of them turned out, then I think that that's an important issue also, because it means there will be a board change. That doesn't mean there won't be reappointments, but it certainly means, and I think we've seen that the board does need some changes just based on some of the issues moving forward, that once again, I'll use the strength that I need to get the things done that need to be done in the community. You're welcome. I understand the issue of elections for a lot of these things, and I think we do see that. We see it with the school board, certainly. We see it with some of the other groups. I think that what we have, though, are corporations. SCDC is a business. CCDC is a business. They administer huge budgets and they need very specific expertise, and I don't know how an election would help that. We're certainly open to looking into the future, but right now those operate by probably municipal code, and that's exactly what we are operating by.
Mayor Sanders. I'm Kathleen McLeod, and I live in Canton. My professional background is in public administration. The fact that our local structure uses city-owned corporations to provide redevelopment services blurs the boundary between public and private sectors. And I know, as you found out recently, with regard with your inability to really respond to Nancy Graham's $65,000 bonus, you kind of said, you know, it's really a board decision, because you admitted that it was, in that structure, there are limited powers by the mayor. And also that structure really doesn't provide for proper procurement standards that normal contracting would entail, such as contract monitoring, such as competition for RFPs, and threats of sanctions, and in fact termination of contracts for non-compliance. And I think a big part of what we've had here over the years is that structure you know, needs to be looked at. And I'm wondering, from your looking at all the quasi agencies, if you're considering looking at that very structure and how we can correct some of the deficiencies in it.
Well, we are going to look at that, and but I want to be, I think maybe what would be instructive is why we have CCDC and SCDC, and why we have the redevelopment agency, which is inside of the city of San Diego. You have CCDC and SCDC. First of all, CCDC came into existence. When you have a redevelopment area, the advantage of that is you have to show that you have blight there, but then all the property tax in that redevelopment area, as long as it's used in that area, 100 cents on the dollar. So every dollar, 100 cents stays in that redevelopment area, so you can rebuild, you can do all those things that need to be done. The other part of it is, working inside the city of San Diego, what happens is it falls into the bureaucracy, and nothing gets done quickly and nothing gets done well. So they went outside, they found redevelopment experts, and you can list the whole line of them, who have done a great job, but you have to pay more than city wages to do that. This is a very intensive niche where you have to really be on top of it and know what you're doing. City of San Diego, with our salary structure, could never support that. Plus, then you have civil service rules and you've got all the rest. State law sets out how you set these agencies up and who they report to. Now, I don't know if it's the same all over the state, but this is a state law. We put ours in the charter the way we did it, so that the city council is the one that ultimately has to vote for the budget each year, ultimately has to make the final decisions on much of the land use, because it comes in front of city council. And you're seeing it in CCDC right now, where they have to vote on the Navy Broadway complex. They have to vote on a whole range of issues on the redevelopment side. If all of a sudden you just break the structure, you stop getting that 100 cents on the dollar. Then you get 17 cents, which is what the city of San Diego gets in all the properties that are not in a redevelopment area. So SCDC was formed after CCDC to try to get the same type of catalyst going in the area that it was formed in, southeastern San Diego primarily, as downtown was getting from CCDC. So it was really almost a carbon copy, although it's set up a little bit differently, still set up under the same structure. The third thing we have is the redevelopment agency inside the city. That is being changed right now to make that an independent body also, that answers to both the mayor and the council. But they can make those decisions. They have 9 redevelopment areas. Crossroads redevelopment area, which affects Oak Park. They've got them all over the city, but they're done within the city structure, and we're trying to get them out so that they can hire staff more easily. Staff work at will. So we've got good staff, and it's working much the same way.